Unfortunately, Prince Andrew was totally different. He could fly off the handle at the smallest thing. He would be abusive. He would shout, he would swear. So we had a particular issue with Prince Andrew.
Everyone's heard the headline by now. A former royal butler has gone on record about a particular habit Andrew and Sarah Ferguson had, one that left palace staff, in his words, up in arms. It sounds almost comical at first. A messy bedroom, too many dinner parties. Surely, you'd think, hardly worth the drama. But here's the thing. That habit wasn't an isolated quirk. It was the opening chapter of a pattern of entitlement that has never truly stopped, and that pattern has now led to one of the most dramatic unravelings the British royal family has seen in living memory. In this video, we're going to walk through what Paul Burrell actually revealed, what was really happening behind those palace walls, and how a staff revolt that once reached the desk of Queen Elizabeth connects directly to the eviction, the Epstein fallout, and the moment that sealed Andrew's fate permanently. And toward the end, we'll get to something no royal has faced in 400 years. Paul Burrell served Princess Diana as her personal butler from 1987 to 1997. Before that, he worked as a footman to Queen Elizabeth herself. He knows what the inside of these institutions looks like, and in his memoir, The Royal Insider, he describes the early days of Andrew and Fergie's marriage with a clarity that's hard to dismiss. According to Burrell, the problems started almost immediately after the wedding. The newlyweds refused to leave their marital bed, and more pointedly, they refused to let anyone else near it. Maids weren't permitted to enter the bedroom to make the bed for days at a time. That might sound minor, but in a household that runs on schedule, discretion, and routine, it was a signal, and staff noticed it right away. Then came the parties. Not one or two, a relentless stream of lavish lunch parties, dinner parties, and tea gatherings with their circle of friends. Burrell writes that the kitchen staff were run off their feet. The royal chefs, accustomed to serving set meals to the Queen and the family at fixed times, were now being asked to produce food on demand, round the clock, like an a la carte restaurant. He notes pointedly that even the Queen herself didn't entertain so extravagantly. It didn't take long before things reached a breaking point. Staff formally complained, and these complaints went all the way to the master of the household, who then escalated directly to Queen Elizabeth. She had to step in personally to put a stop to it. Burrell explains that this wasn't just about disruption. The Queen made a point of choosing each day's food in advance. Waste was something she genuinely disliked, almost philosophically. The idea that her son and his wife were treating the household like an open kitchen hotel was, by all accounts, deeply unwelcome. And yet, here's where it gets instructive. Andrew appeared genuinely surprised that anyone had a problem with it. Burrell describes him as besotted with Fergie. She could do no wrong as far as Andrew was concerned. It was everyone else who needed to adjust. That attitude, it turns out, wasn't limited to the early marriage years. It would follow him for decades. Paul Burrell doesn't just describe messy mornings and late-night feasting. He also writes about something sharper. He claims to have witnessed Andrew telling members of staff to off, get out of here, repeatedly, and without apparent remorse. Burrell uses the words pompous and entitled. He calls it obscene, really, the way he treated people. He wasn't the only one to notice. Dickie Arbiter, who served as press secretary to the late Queen, was notably blunt in his own assessments of Andrew over the years, describing him as arrogant, rude, and bumptious. Multiple accounts from former household staff, compiled over the years by outlets including The Mirror, describe a pattern, bizarre requests, humiliating put-downs, and an expectation that any frustration he felt could be directed at whoever was nearest. What's remarkable, looking back, is that none of this was ever truly dealt with. The Queen stepped in over the bedroom and the dinner parties, but Andrew's core behaviour remained protected. He was, by most accounts, her favourite son. And while that protection held, the consequences for him were minimal. When it was removed, the fall was extraordinary. By 2025, Andrew and Sarah Ferguson were no longer dealing with complaints from domestic staff. The scale of what they were facing had become something else entirely. The US Department of Justice released a series of emails as part of the ongoing Jeffrey Epstein files process. and what those emails contained was damaging in a way that few could have anticipated. For Sarah Ferguson specifically, the details were particularly startling. According to widely reported accounts of those documents, Fergie had asked Epstein to marry her. She had apparently offered to take his clients on a tour of Buckingham Palace. She had visited him alongside daughters Beatrice and Eugenie. She had asked to work as his house assistant. She had sought his advice on promoting a children's charity. Each individual claim sounds remarkable in isolation. Together, they painted a picture of a relationship that went well beyond what Ferguson had ever publicly acknowledged. The consequences arrived quickly. The teenage Cancer Trust cut ties. Her own foundation, Sarah's Trust, announced it would close for the foreseeable future. By February 2026, 6 companies linked to Ferguson were in the process of being wound down. For a woman who had spent years rebuilding her public profile through charitable work, the erosion was almost total. And Andrew's side of the Epstein connection had not gone quiet either. Reports noted that emails referred to the former royal under apparent codenames, the Duke and the Invisible Man, suggesting contact with Epstein that continued even during his house arrest period. Andrew has consistently and strongly denied any wrongdoing. October 30, 2025. It's worth pausing on that date because of everything it represented. King Charles announced that Andrew would be stripped of all remaining royal titles. Not just ceremonial adjustments, everything. He was no longer a prince, no longer the Duke of York. He became, in official terms, simply Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. On the same day, the surrender of Royal Lodge was formalised. Royal Lodge matters as a symbol. It's a 30-room mansion set within Windsor Great Park. Andrew had been leasing it since 2003, and there had been a prolonged, quite public standoff over the property for well over a year. Reports of Charles applying pressure, of financial incentives to leave being offered and refused, of Andrew insisting on his right to stay. He had, reportedly, even declined the offer to move to Frogmore Cottage at one point. In the end, there was no negotiation left. He moved, first to Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate as a temporary arrangement, and then, as renovations progressed, toward his permanent new home, Marsh Farm, a 5-bedroom property on the same estate. Those close to the situation reportedly described it as a she-box compared to what he'd had. Andrew himself was said to have called it ramshackle. Much of what had been inside Royal Lodge went into storage. The costs of renovation at Marsh Farm were reportedly being covered by the king. Locals near Sandringham, for their part, were reportedly flabbergasted that he was moving in. While Andrew was being relocated to a remote Norfolk farm, Sarah Ferguson's situation was, in some ways, even less resolved. Reports surfaced that she effectively had nowhere to live. Her daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, both with their own families and their own properties, couldn't offer her a permanent base. She reportedly headed overseas after the eviction, said to be considering her options. She was then reported to have spent nearly a month at Paracelsus Recovery in Switzerland, a private clinic with a reported cost of around $17,000 a night, leaving the UK shortly after Christmas 2025. From there, reports in early 2026 placed her at a wellness retreat in Donegal, Ireland, a resort she'd apparently visited before. She was described in some accounts as fragile. Her long-term living arrangements, as of early 2026, remained genuinely unresolved. Think about that trajectory. From the corridors of Buckingham Palace, from offering its rooms as a tour to Epstein's associates, to wellness retreats in Ireland, with no fixed address and a personal financial situation that has rarely been straightforward. The distance between those 2 points is considerable. What stands out across all of this is how consistent the behaviour has been, not the specific actions, those have changed dramatically over the decades, but the underlying logic, the belief, embedded early and never seriously challenged, that the rules which apply to everyone else simply didn't apply here. The maids couldn't enter because Andrew and Fergie didn't want them to. The kitchen staff worked through the night because Andrew and Fergie wanted parties. The staff protested and the Queen intervened, and Andrew, by all accounts, processed that as an inconvenience rather than a lesson. Decades later, he reportedly delayed leaving Royal Lodge for well over a year. invoking his identity as the Queen's son as a reason why he shouldn't have to go. The Queen was gone. The identity didn't hold anymore. And then, on February 19, 2026, his birthday, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was arrested by British police on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He was held for 11 hours. He strongly denies all wrongdoing, but the fact itself is almost impossible to absorb. The first royal to be arrested in 400 years. A man who once received the highest naval decorations his country could offer, standing in a police station on his 66th birthday. Do you think Andrew genuinely accepts the position he's now in? Or is that same refusal to adjust the same quality that drove staff to revolt all those years ago, still operating somewhere underneath it all? And for Fergie, with the charities gone and the companies dissolving, is there any version of a public rehabilitation left, or has the Epstein fallout permanently closed that chapter? Leave your thoughts below. And if you want to stay across how this story develops, because it is very much still developing, subscribe. There's a great deal more still to come.